What would you do if you were the richest person in your city? Buy luxury cars, splurge on mansions, maybe dine at 5-star restaurants every night? Well, Mr. Krabs has other plans. Despite being one of the wealthiest business owners in Bikini Bottom, his lifestyle doesn't exactly scream multi-millionaire. I mean, we know he's obsessed with money.
Money! Hey, where are you going, beautiful?
He sleeps with it, bathes in it, and probably whispers sweet nothings to his beloved cash register.
This is the last robot, Squidward.
No! Not my cash register! I raised it myself. I got it when it was just a little calculator. No!
But here's the million-dollar question. Is Mr. Krabs actually less rich than he lets on, or is he just constantly padding his wallet, no matter how full it already is? Let's start with the facts, or at least as much as SpongeBob SquarePants has bothered to give us. The Krusty Krab is undoubtedly the go-to eatery in Bikini Bottom. It's got the charm of a greasy spoon diner, paired with the inexplicable ability to draw lines out the door on a regular basis. Mr. Krabs runs the place with a tight grip on every penny, keeping costs as low as possible, and when I say low, I mean practically non-existent. SpongeBob, he's practically working for free, surviving on his passion for flipping patties.
I know I've said this 90 times already, but I love Krabby Patties. I think that they are swell. They are the best. There's no contest. And now I'm going to yell.
Squidward, his paycheck might as well be a collection of bad vibes. And don't even get me started on Mr. Krabs' creative approach to building maintenance. Despite this, the Krusty Krab thrives. It's consistently packed, especially whenever a new gimmick or marketing ploy comes into play. Remember the Pretty Patties fiasco from the Patty Hype episode?
See this? Ta-da!
Great Barrier Reef! That patty's spoiled!
Mr. Krabs, it's not tainted meat, it's painted meat. Pretty Patties, available in 6 designer colors.
Or when the Krusty Krab held a talent show and charged admission. Mr. Krabs knows how to squeeze every last cent out of his customers, and he's not shy about it. Its secret formula is so valuable that it's been the target of countless theft attempts by Plankton, Bikini Bottom's resident evil genius.
Yeah, baby! This is it! Yeah!
Mr. Krabs guards that recipe like his life depends on it, and for good reason. It's the backbone of his entire empire. Without it, the Krusty Krab is just a sad little shack serving up soggy fries and lukewarm soda. Now, let's talk about the Krusty Krab's prime location. It's nestled right in the heart of downtown Bikini Bottom, a strategic spot just a few minutes from Jellyfish Fields and Goo Lagoon. From the local bargain mart, it's about a 5-minute drive, and if you're coming from where SpongeBob lives, it's only a 7-minute walk. Plus, if we consider its monopoly on edible food in a world where Plankton's chum is the only competition, Mr. Krabs has struck gold, or at least a salty fried equivalent. I know some people are gonna comment there are other fast food joints in Bikini Bottom like Weenie Hut Jr.'s, but let's be honest, are they as popular as the Krusty Krab? Are any of these as packed with customers as the Krusty Krab is? The Krusty Krab is basically the king of restaurants in Bikini Bottom. And here's where things get actually weird. While the Krusty Krab appears to be wildly successful, Mr. Krabs' own lifestyle doesn't scream rolling in riches. Sure, he's got that giant vault of money he occasionally takes a swim in, Bill Gates style, but his home is a modest anchor, and he's constantly cutting corners. If he's so wealthy, why does he still reuse paper towels and charge his daughter Pearl for rent? Something doesn't quite add up. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, or coral reef in this case. There's a lot more to Mr. Krabs' finances than meets the eye, and it's time to dig even deeper into the clues, contradictions, and conspiracies that keep fans guessing. To start, we know the Krusty Krab operates on a pretty intense schedule. Monday through Thursday, it's open from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. On Fridays and Saturdays, the hours stretch to 10 p.m., and Tuesday features that infamous late-night shift until 11 p.m. Sunday, closed, because even Mr. Krabs knows when to count his loot in peace. That's 82 hours a week, with Squidward and SpongeBob manning the operation nearly every moment. Now, let's talk customers. Bikini Bottom has about 538 residents, and a study, some very dedicated fans, suggests that around 21 regulars frequent the Krusty Krab. If each of them visits twice a week, that's 42 visits per week from regulars alone. Add in the rest of Bikini Bottom residents and a few curious tourists, and it's estimated that the Krusty Krab serves about 180 customers daily. Considering that each customer orders the regular Krabby meal, they pay $3.50, so the daily revenue totals a solid $630. Multiply that by 6 operating days, and we're looking at about $3,780 per week. Now, here's where things get interesting. Payroll expenses for SpongeBob and Squidward are absurdly low.
What is this? You're making me pay you to stand at the cash register? What is the meaning of this? Have you gone off the deep end?
If we assume Mr. Krabs pays them the US federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, and that's being generous, it costs him $14.50 an hour for the 2 employees. Over the course of a week, wages amount to about $1,189. Subtracting wages, Mr. Krabs clears around $2,591 in weekly profit, or $134,732 annually, before we even factor in food costs, utilities, or the occasional destruction of the restaurant. But if we consider that many customers don't just buy the Krabby meal and they also buy seafoam soda and other items on the menu, Mr. Krabs could be easily making over $200,000 a year. And the Krusty Krab has been around since 1954 according to in-universe lore, meaning Mr. Krabs has had decades to accumulate his fortune. Assuming he's been making this level of profit consistently and reinvesting wisely, it's plausible he's sitting on a net worth between $5 and $8.5 million. And if we stretch our imaginations to assume zero expenses, no wages, no food costs, and no taxes, Mr. Krabs could theoretically be the first billionaire of Bikini Bottom. But let's be real, even the most cunning crustacean can't dodge taxes forever. Now, let's factor in the legendary frugality of Mr. Krabs. The man is practically allergic to spending money.
What? Profit's down $3 from last month. I gotta start running a tighter ship around here.
He probably forces SpongeBob to use 1 ketchup packet for 100 burgers. And in the Big Pink Loser episode, we see him charging Patrick $50 an hour to work there. We can definitely say that his cost-cutting measures border on criminal genius, and yet the place stays in tip-top shape, except of course when SpongeBob's antics destroy the roof for the 10th time.
Swing, boy, under. Swing the basket.
But wait, there's more. If you consider that the Krusty Krab's been around since 1954, based on clues from the Krusty Krab training video, Mr. Krabs has had decades to stack his treasure. If we assume he saved most of his profits, and let's face it, he probably only buys groceries when they're 90% off, his total wealth could be in the millions, possibly even billions. But here's where things get fishy. Despite all the money pouring in, Mr. Krabs lives in a surprisingly modest anchor home. He doesn't flaunt wealth like Squilliam Fancyson, who owns yachts, islands, and probably a private ocean current. So why is Mr. Krabs, the supposed king of cash, still clipping coupons? Is it frugality, a secret tax evasion scheme, or maybe just maybe he's hiding a massive underwater vault somewhere filled with gold doubloons? And don't even get me started on the Krabby Patty formula. Some fans speculate that it's addictive, which explains why Bikini Bottom citizens can't get enough. If that's true, the Krusty Krab is the pharmaceutical powerhouse of the ocean. But hey, that's just a theory. Though it would explain why Plankton's been trying to steal the recipe for over 2 decades. But coming back to our topic, let's talk about his lifestyle. What does it say about his wealth? In my opinion, if Mr. Krabs were a real-world tycoon, he'd be the guy driving a 1995 Toyota Corolla while secretly owning a chain of luxury hotels. For someone who's arguably one of the richest crabs in Bikini Bottom, his lifestyle screams tight budget. His home is an old anchor, rusty, cozy, and definitely not what you'd expect for a guy who is a thriving business. It's almost as if Mr. Krabs is a billionaire in hiding. He's hoarding his wealth somewhere far away from the tax collectors of Bikini Bottom. In the episode Clams, he reveals he has $1 million stash just sitting around. That's right.
Congratulations, sir! You have just given me my $1 million!
And what about his vault? Oh yes, in Money Talks, we see Mr. Krabs rolling around in his private stash of cash and jewels hidden beneath the Krusty Krab. It's the kind of setup that would make Elon Musk jealous. This stash hints at a much larger fortune than what's apparent from his day-to-day life. The real question is, how did he earn it all? It can't just be Krabby Patties. Could he have a side hustle? Black market anchovies, maybe? Then there's his obsession with financial security. Mr. Krabs has been known to cut corners on everything. Remember when he turned the Krusty Krab into a hotel in the episode Krusty Towers, Mrs. Puff You're Fired? He was literally charging extra for basic amenities like towels. It's clear Mr. Krabs knows the value of $1, so much so that he's willing to nickel and dime his way to even greater wealth. Despite all this, Mr. Krabs doesn't flaunt his fortune like you'd expect from a mogul. Unlike Squilliam Fancy Son, who's the very definition of new money, Mr. Krabs remains relatively grounded. Maybe it's his military background, he's a veteran after all. Or perhaps he simply enjoys watching his bank balance grow more than he does spending it. Either way, his lifestyle remains an intriguing paradox. But again, Mr. Krabs' frugal lifestyle and his love for hoarding cash are only part of the story. When you consider everything he owns, from his business empire to that old anchor he calls home, it begs the question, just how much is Mr. Krabs really worth? I mean, his net worth isn't just about cash stuffed into a vault. It includes his property, business, and yes, even his quirky home, which is literally a massive anchor. In the real world, anchors are typically made of cast steel with additional components like the fittings and shanks forged from steel for strength and durability. While anchors come in many sizes, their weights range dramatically, from smaller 30-pound wary anchors to the 30,000-pound behemoths used by aircraft carriers. Judging by the size of Mr. Krabs' anchor relative to Bikini Bottom's buildings, it's safe to assume his home weighs somewhere in the ballpark of 10,000 to 20,000 pounds, making it comparable to anchors used for medium-sized vessels. Since the prices keep changing, we will stick to the most accurate number we currently have. According to Statista, the average price of scrap iron and steel in the United States was approximately $313 per metric ton in 2023. With this in mind, we can calculate the potential scrap value of Mr. Krabs' anchor home. 10,000 pounds equals 4.4 metric tons, $1,420. 20,000 pounds equals 9.07 metric tons, $2,840. So if Mr. Krabs ever fell on hard times and needed to sell his anchor for scrap, it would fetch somewhere between $1,400 and $2,800. However, as a livable home, the anchor is worth far more. It sits in a prime location, just a short walk from the Krusty Krab and the Bargain Mart, and is likely considered a desirable neighborhood in Bikini Bottom. Adjusting for the area's unique housing market, it's reasonable to estimate that Mr. Krabs' anchor would be valued between $150,000 and $250,000 as real estate. Again, these are assumed numbers, but we can definitely say that I am going with realistic assumptions. For perspective, the largest real-world anchors, like those on aircraft carriers, weigh over 30,000 pounds and are attached to chains that stretch 1,400 feet. If Mr. Krabs' anchor approaches the 20,000-pound range, it's clear he's living in something monumental by both underwater and human standards. At the same time, we have concluded that his restaurant pulls in an estimated annual revenue of $200,000. Small restaurants like this typically sell for 2 to 3 times their annual profits, putting the Krusty Krab's market value at $400,000 to $600,000. Its location adds another layer of value. Nestled in downtown Bikini Bottom, it benefits from high foot traffic and little competition since chumbucket cuisine isn't exactly a threat. So the Krusty Krab could command a premium price, possibly pushing its valuation toward the higher end of that range. In addition to tangible assets, Mr. Krabs also has a stash of $1 million in cold hard cash. Combine that with his decades of business profits and frugal lifestyle, and it's reasonable to estimate he has at least another $3 to $5 million in savings or investments. When we add it all up, here's where Mr. Krabs' net worth stands. Anchor home, $150,000 to $250,000. Krusty Krab business, $400,000 to $600,000. Liquid cash in vault, $3.5 to $6 million. Other investments and hidden assets, $500,000 to $1 million. That brings his total estimated net worth to $4.5 million to $7.85 million. Not bad for someone who reuses napkins and charges his daughter rent. And if we were to tax Mr. Krabs' home and assets like we do in the real world, he'd face property taxes on the anchor and business taxes on the Krusty Krab. With Bikini Bottom's likely low-tax economy, these could cost him a modest $10,000 to $15,000 annually. So what do you think? Is Mr. Krabs a financial genius or just a lucky crustacean? Do you believe he's hiding secrets behind that cash-filled safe? Or is his wealth exactly what it seems? And most importantly, could the Krusty Krab survive outside of Bikini Bottom? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care and stay tuned.